This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Last week, we told you about the Imagine Cup finals in the United States. Team Flash Food from Arizona State University won top honors at the Microsoft event. The team developed a mobile application and website to help restaurants, hotels, and farmers markets donate food to people who need it. The businesses enter information about the food they would like to donate. A notification goes to a team of volunteer drivers who can go pick up the leftover food and take it to people in need. This is perishable food, the kind of food that cannot normally be handled by food banks or other food recovery organizations. The Flash Food Project grew out of the engineering projects in Community Service Program at Arizona State. The director of that program, Richard Philly, says the project has far-reaching possibilities. Mr. Philly plans to work with the team to find ways to extend the Flash Food app to other countries. In his words, would those cultures in those different countries be open to the idea of taking leftover food and using Flash Food to connect with people who are hungry? We don't know the answer to that yet, says Mr. Philly. The Imagine Cup is now in its 10th year. Mark Hinsbo is a vice president with Microsoft. He says students who enter the competition can now build their ideas around a lot of technology that was not widely available 10 years ago. In the beginning, he says, people were building almost everything from scratch. But now, he points to the Flash Food app as a good example of bringing together existing technologies. The students built the app on the assumption that there are smartphones in the hands of most of the people they need to work with. Also, the use of mapping software lets the app give the volunteer drivers turn-by-turn directions to the restaurants with food to donate. Team Flash Food will represent the United States at the Imagine Cup World Finals in Australia in July. Mark Hinsbo says solving world problems like hunger is a major goal of the competition. But another major goal is to get more American students interested in jobs in science and engineering. When you look at the pipeline in science, technology, engineering, and math, we come up way short, he says. As a result, he says around 1 million software and tech jobs could go unfilled in the United States over the next 5 years. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti.
From VOA Learning English, we welcome you to news about technology. Have you ever had an RSS news feed sent to your mobile phone or computer? If so, you have Aaron Swartz to thank. He helped develop that internet publishing technology when he was 14 years old. He also helped develop what came to be known as the social news website Reddit. But sadly, the 26-year-old internet activist was found dead in his apartment in Brooklyn, New York on January 11th. His death was called a suicide. Aaron Swartz believed that information is knowledge. He believed the internet should be used to make that knowledge available to everyone. This belief is what eventually got him in trouble with the law. Aaron Swartz was to face a federal trial in April. He was accused of using computers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to download millions of academic documents from JSTOR. He could have faced 35 years in prison and as much as $1 million in fines. Some people have called the charges extreme. Renee Hutchins is a law professor at the University of Maryland. She said it is unclear if government lawyers had a solid criminal case against Aaron Swartz. She said he was basically accused of violating a user agreement with JSTOR, which charges fees to use its huge collection of research publications. Renee Hutchins says Aaron Swartz had legal accounts with JSTOR and with MIT through Harvard University. A court of appeals ruled that his actions violated user agreements and could be considered criminal. But a recent ruling by the Ninth Circuit Court disputed the idea that federal criminal law is meant for that purpose. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. In late January, for the first time, President Obama publicly confirmed the American use of drone strikes in tribal areas in Pakistan. He answered a question on the subject during a Google video conference with people around the United States. He said, "I want to make sure that people understand that actually drones have not caused a huge number of civilian casualties. For the most part, they have been very precise, precision strikes against Al-Qaeda and their affiliates." Debate continues about how many people, including civilians, have been killed in those drone attacks. Drones are technically known as unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. These aircraft, however, are not just used for airstrikes, and they are not just used by governments. Drones are useful for aerial photography, including industrial tasks like pipeline inspections. And human rights activists, environmental groups, and journalists are increasingly using drones in their work. Drones can fly above news events to capture images that reporters may not be able to get close to on the ground. Matt Wade is a journalism professor at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Students in his drone journalism lab are exploring different uses for drones in news reporting. He says, drone journalism as an idea is less than a year old at this point. The first instance I saw was a labor protest in Poland where a man had a remote-controlled helicopter and he put a camera on it and he flew it up and got just a view of the protests from the air. And you could see police moving into position to kind of block the protest route. A video on YouTube shows images captured by the so-called robocopter. A group of citizen journalists in Moscow used a similar drone camera to record protests during Russian parliamentary elections. And Professor Wade noted a recent environmental case in the United States captured by someone flying his remote-controlled airplane. He spotted a meat-packing plant that was polluting a nearby creek that ran into a nearby river. He had images of a river of blood flowing out of this meatpacking plant, which was against the law. And environmental regulatory authorities were alerted to it. Drone use in the United States is now rare because of federal restrictions on airspace. However, a new law calls for easing those restrictions by 2015. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. Egypt's government faced international criticism when it blocked internet service to try to suppress the uprising there. But Egyptian activists found other ways to get their message out. Google, Twitter, and a company called Say Now launched a service called Speak to Tweet. They wanted to give Egyptians a way to communicate with the outside world. There are phone numbers for people to call to record a message. An audio file is then posted to Twitter. Anyone can listen to these voice-to-tweet messages at twitter.com/speak-to-tweet. The phone numbers are listed on that page, and people can also call them to hear the tweets. Ujwal Singh and Abdel Karim Mardini launched Say Now as an American-based company in 2005. Thousands of celebrities use the service to connect with their fans. Google purchased Say Now at the end of January, just days before teaming with Twitter to create the new Speak to Tweet service. Most of the calls have come from inside Egypt, and most are in Arabic. Volunteers are translating the messages into English, Spanish, and French at the website Alive in Egypt. People are also showing their support for the protesters through pages on Facebook. Facebook says it has 5 million users in Egypt, including 1 million on mobile devices. Social networks like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube also played a part in the protests that forced Tunisia's president from office in January. Gillian York is with the Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University in Massachusetts. She says the use of social media has been different in the movements in Egypt and Tunisia. She says in Tunisia, it was used mostly to spread information about what was happening on the ground. In Egypt, people have been using social media to organize. Gillian York is also a member of the Open Net Initiative, a group that studies internet censorship and spying. She says the Egyptian shutdown had a much wider effect than past internet bans in Nepal, Burma, and China's Xinjiang province. She says Egypt's internet community is about 20 times the size of those 3 places combined. Internet service returned in Egypt after a 5-day shutdown. Experts at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development estimated that the action cost Egypt's economy at least $90 million. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.